Hello, Degrassi fans, and welcome to the Degrassi Kid Patreon, where we take you even deeper into the behind the scenes of Degrassi. Today, I want to introduce you to the world of Degrassi's public service announcements. Degrassi has a long-standing history of partnering with charities and nonprofits to help raise awareness for the topics that they cover on the show. Back in the early days of Degrassi, the cast would often volunteer their time for several nonprofits. They would visit schools where they'd speak on the subjects that their characters faced on Degrassi. For example, Sarah Ballingal might talk about Melanie's puberty episode, or Billy Parrott might talk about Shane and his use of drugs. Their publicist, Catherine Ellis, made it a point to rotate the kids for their public appearances. That way you weren't always just getting Joey Jeremiah and Caitlin Ryan being the center of the stage. That's why you might sometimes get duos like this, where you have Pat and Angela appear on a show together, despite the fact that Joey and Erica don't have that much interaction on the show. The OG Degrassi Kids were even ambassadors for UNICEF, where they did a 10-minute video called Degrassi Kids Rap on Rights. This video was considered a part of Degrassi's lost media for decades, up until 2022, when a Degrassi fan was able to find the full-length video and share it as part of a preservation project. This video is all about UNICEF advocating for children's rights, and they have a lot of fun with it. The kids rap together to spread their message, the actor who plays Bronco does some beatboxing, but it also highlights how each cast member personally relates to the topic of children's rights.
I'm Kira Levy and I play Maya. Maya gets around in an electric wheelchair, but I wear leg braces to help me get around. I'm lucky that the special care I need is available to me. And I hope soon special care will be available to every child who needs it. The right to special care, if disabled, is another right of the child.
They would even reference nonprofits a few times throughout the Degrassi episodes, like when the Degrassi Kids host a UNICEF fundraiser in this episode called All in a Good Cause.
Now this is the third day in Degrassi's UNICEF fundraising week. The good news is, so far we've raised $143.
Yeah, all right.
The bad news is, 9B has raised $220. As you know, we challenged 9B to see who could raise the most money. The losers have to be the winner's slaves for a day.
There's no way I can be anybody's slave.
Me neither. So I want to see all you guys out there at the car wash. Let's show 9B we're number one.
Yeah, all right.
Because of Degrassi's sense of realism, both with their topics and casting real kids in Toronto, there was a strong effort to connect the Degrassi Kids with their community. Nonprofits could use their popularity and their relatability with teenagers to try and advocate for the use of their public services. But in 2001, that same emphasis just wasn't there for Degrassi: The Next Generation. The show and the production became more polished and more professional. And while there were definitely still nonprofit connections being made with the cast, it just wasn't to the same extent as the 80s. So I thought it would be interesting if today I took you through 10 public service announcements that you might not know about. They're going to cover topics like gun violence, sexual assault, and even some messages about COVID that the Degrassi cast did after the show went off the air. In 2003, Degrassi: The Next Generation actually partnered with UNICEF to make an awareness video on HIV/AIDS. This 7-minute video features 18 cast members from Degrassi: The Next Generation, and it's quite a creative project, and it featured a lot of music made by the cast members themselves. For example, Aubrey Graham opens up with a rap about how he learned about the effects of HIV/AIDS. Adamo Ruggiero performs a poem about children who experience HIV/AIDS, and the entire cast comes together for a song led by Cassie Steele. My favorite part of the performance is actually a duet between Andrea Lewis and Jake Epstein, which goes like this.
'Cause everyone loves you, you're not alone. What if you need them and they're not home? What if your family can't watch you go? How do you get through on your own?
This PSA advocates that kids are the most vulnerable group for exposure to HIV, but they also reinforce the messaging that drug users and sex workers need our support too. In true Degrassi fashion, they double down that the best way to stay safe is to educate yourself, advocating for the use of condoms, safe sex, and education.
No one is immune. Anyone can get it.
It doesn't matter whether you're a guy or a girl.
Where in the world you're from.
Or whether you're gay or you're straight.
As a Degrassi fan, I feel like this video is very closely tied to Degrassi's core values and all the topics or lessons that they cover on the show. But when you think of it in the context of modern media and how often we're told that kids are just too young to learn about these topics, it truly blows me away. These are kids who have volunteered their time to write poems and sing songs and advocate for education, sexual health around HIV/AIDS. This is just one of the things that makes Degrassi my favorite show.
To find out more, call 1-800-567-4483 or visit www.giveitupforkids.ca.
The next PSA is done in partnership with Pluto TV. They're a free streaming service that plays Degrassi: The Next Generation 24/7. It's no secret that during COVID, TV shows like Degrassi and anything else on a streaming platform got a huge boost in numbers because everyone was staying home and watching TV. Degrassi became one of Pluto TV's most popular channels, so they reached out to Degrassi stars like Luke Billick and Mary McDonald to remind everyone to stay safe, stay home, and do your part to reduce the spread of COVID-19. Here's both of those PSAs back to back.
I'm Mary McDonald, and this is my dog Hudson, and we are staying home to stop the spread of COVID-19. If you're an essential worker, we want to say a huge thank you, and if you're staying home just like us, please remember you're not alone. So please stay home. We are all in this together. We are alone in this together. Stay home, stay safe, and we are sending you a huge hug.
Hey everyone, it's Luke Billick here. I just wanted to reach out to all of you guys and hope you guys are staying safe and staying healthy. I wanted to share some positive messages with you guys. First things first, this is a great opportunity for you guys to just reach out to your friends and family, see how they're going, check on them. Secondly, at-home workouts. There are lots and lots of great videos online. This is a great time to learn something new, broaden your mind. Guys, really stay healthy, stay happy, be safe.
In the summer of 2010, Degrassi was pumping out an insane number of storylines. And one of those storylines was Jenna Middleton learning that she's pregnant. Jessica Tyler, who played Jenna on the series, did a public service announcement with stayteen.org. This is one of my favorite PSAs that Degrassi did because a lot of the time the messaging for teenagers is just don't have sex at all. But this PSA advocates you to do what's best for you and even sends home the messaging that you can say no to sex even if you've had sex before. It's a pretty cool PSA, and here it is now.
Hi, I'm Jessica Tyler, Jenna on Degrassi. Most teens don't think about how their lives would be affected if they were to get pregnant. Maybe you're busy thinking about that math test coming up. Well, here's some math for you. Did you know that if you have sex without protection on a regular basis, you have an 85% chance of getting pregnant within a year? Or that nearly a third of the girls in the U.S. get pregnant by the time they're 20? It all adds up to 1 in 6 girls ending up a teen mom. Remember, you can always say no to sex, even if you've said yes before. And you don't have to be that one. Pregnancy is 100% avoidable. Figure out what's right for you. To learn more, go to stayteen.org.
Abuse is a topic that is widely covered on Degrassi, and once we meet the Hollingsworths, it amps up more than ever, when Miles is frequently abused by his father. This resulted in a PSA where Eric Osborne speaks on behalf of Child Help, a national organization that helps prevent and treat child abuse. He encourages kids to call in if they have any personal experience with child abuse or know someone who has. What I love about this PSA is the severity of which Eric delivers it. He's very clear, direct, and paints a sense of urgency without creating fear. I can imagine that if you were a kid who was experiencing child abuse, it would really send home the message if the person who you saw experiencing it on your favorite TV show came on your screen and said, hey, if you're just like me, you can get help. Here's the Child Help PSA with Eric Osborne.
I'm Eric Osborne, and I play Miles on Degrassi. Tonight's episode deals with a very serious topic. 1 in 10 children in this country experience child abuse and neglect. If you or anyone you know has experienced abuse, you are not alone and there is help available. Call the Child Help National Child Abuse Hotline at 1-800-4-A-CHILD or visit childhelp.org for more information.
Like I said, abuse is covered in several different ways on Degrassi. Ali Bandari deals with relationship abuse when she dates and then marries a boy named Leo. He physically assaults her and goes through all the warning signs of, oh, this will never happen again. Let me buy you presents. Look at how nice I am. In the episode titled Jane Says, Jane discovers that she was sexually assaulted as a child. And at the end of the series, Zoe is unconscious and assaulted at a party by Luke Baker and some of his friends. The three actresses, Melinda Shankar, Paula Brancati, and Anna Golia, each did PSAs about abuse in regards to their characters' experiences. Melinda's is in partnership with Love is Respect, and both Paula and Anna do theirs with RAINN and the National Sexual Assault Hotline.
I'm Anna Golia, and I play Zoe on Degrassi. Tonight's episode deals with a very serious topic. Sexual assault happens all too often to all kinds of people. It is important not to assign blame to the victim, no matter what that person was doing or wearing. The only person responsible for sexual assault is the person who was doing the assaulting. Be aware of what sexual assault is. If you or anyone you know has been sexually assaulted, it's never too late to get help. Call 1-800-656-HOPE or visit rain.org. No one should have to go through it alone.
People who are victims of violence within a relationship often feel scared and confused, but they need to know it's not their fault. There's a place they can go to feel safe and supported. If you or someone you know is in an abusive relationship, there are resources you can both turn to for information and support. To get help, go anytime to loveisrespect.org or call toll-free to 1-866-331-9474 day or night. For victims of dating abuse and their friends and family, it's important to remember that you are not alone.
Hi, I'm Paula Brancati, and I play Jane on the TV show Degrassi. The episode you just watched deals with the serious issue of sexual assault. Although Degrassi is a TV show, this story happens to real teens in homes all across America. My character was fortunate enough to have the support of her family and friends. If you know someone who is going through a similar situation, be a friend. You don't have to know what to say. All you have to do is listen. For information on how to help, call the National Sexual Assault Hotline at 1-800-656-HOPE. You can also visit the National Sexual Assault Hotline on the web at rain.org.
Personally, all of my favorite Degrassi episodes are the ones that are done about queer characters and queer storytelling. So that means that one of my all-time favorite characters is Adam Torres, the very first transgender character on a scripted series. In 2010, Jordan Todesey, who plays Adam on Degrassi, did a PSA with PFLAG, a queer organization that stands for Parents, Friends, and Families of Lesbians and Gays. Jordan's PSA advocates for education around people who are trans, or those who just want to learn more about gender identity. It's pretty amazing that Degrassi was starting these conversations over 13 years ago, especially when today, trans and gender identity issues are still being so openly debated in the public. Here's Jordan Todesey's public service announcement with PFLAG.
Hey, I'm Jordan Todesey, and I play Adam on Degrassi. Being a teenager can be confusing. Heck, life can be confusing. But no one has to go it alone. If you think you might be transgender, or you just want to learn more about gender identity issues, you'll find information and support at PFLAG's Transgender Network. Visit pflag.org.
Of course, the most well-known PSA comes from Showtime, Degrassi's very first attempt at covering suicide. They released several videos with Joey, Caitlin, and Claude all advocating to get help and not copy the actions of Claude Tanner. In terms of Degrassi High, this was definitely the episode most conscious about the copycat effect. When it comes to the topic of suicide, you want to send a very clear and direct message that shows kids who are dealing with this that they're not alone and they need to get help. I played a few suicide PSAs in my podcast titled The Copycat Effect, Why Degrassi's Biggest Moments Almost Never Happened, but there's still several more that are out there. Here's a few clips from Pat and Stacey's public service announcement, which aired before and after Degrassi High's episode about suicide.
Hi, I'm Pat Mastroianni. I play Joey on Degrassi High.
And I'm Stacey Mistitian. I play Caitlin. The following episode of Degrassi High is a dramatic story about suicide. Most people who attempt suicide do not really want to die. In most cases, these people are desperately reaching out, asking for help.
Now, there are signs that you can recognize when someone is suicidal. You should take these signs seriously. If the kids in our story had taken their friends seriously, they could have done something, talked to an adult for help. Teens can't always help their friends who are suicidal, but adults can and do help. There are hotlines, teachers, guidance counselors, your parents, your friends' parents, your doctor, and other adults who can help, but you need to let them know.
On this episode of Degrassi, the student who is suicidal has very serious problems, but he does not have to kill himself. He should ask for help, but he doesn't talk to anyone, and he doesn't realize that things will get better. Suicide is a permanent response to a temporary situation. Even when people get very depressed, suicide is not the solution, but talking to someone is.
If you're thinking about suicide or you know someone who's suicidal, call 1-800-448-3000 or go to an adult for help. Don't wait.
I love that the messaging for this PSA is just clear and direct, and the fact that that didn't change when they covered that topic 20 years later with Cam's suicide episode in The Next Generation. Here's a PSA for You Matter with Olivia Scriven and Dylan Everett, who played Maya and Cam on Degrassi.
Every year, thousands of teens take their own lives. In fact, suicide is the third leading cause of death for 15 to 24-year-olds.
And statistics show that for every suicide you hear about, there are at least 25 attempts that you don't.
It's heartbreaking, but you can do something about it.
Always take any thoughts or talk about suicide seriously and never be afraid to get involved.
If you suspect you or someone you know is at risk, please call the Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK. And remember, where there's help, there's hope.
And number 1, Drake does a PSA around gun violence. I'll be totally honest, I had no idea that this PSA existed until I started doing research for my podcast. That's when I learned that in 2004, Drake, or Aubrey Graham, did a series of videos with Speak Up, an organization that is dedicated to helping teens develop supportive relationships with adults. Their mantra is, we enable teens to talk openly and honestly without judgment about difficult topics and reach out for support within their homes and schools. This PSA aired around the episode Time Stands Still, where Rick brings a gun to school and Aubrey's character is the target. Here's the Speak Up PSA with Degrassi's Jimmy Brooks.
What if one of these students had a weapon? What if you knew? Truth is, in 75% of school shootings, the attacker told someone what they were going to do. If you have information about a weapon at school, don't be afraid to tell a teacher, coach, or counselor. Or call 1-866-SPEAK-UP. It's safe, anonymous, and available 24 hours. Don't ignore it. Don't try and solve it yourself. And don't be afraid to speak up.
And those are the top 10 Degrassi PSAs that you might not have known about. Thank you so much to my Patreon subscribers for making these projects possible. And also a huge shout out to the Degrassi fans who preserved those pieces of media. It is so nice to know that there's so many fans out there who want to help keep the show alive and help make these things accessible. In each video that I played, you can find their YouTube channels in the bottom corner. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you so much for supporting the Degrassi Kid Patreon. Bye!